The gentleman who joins us now, whose name is obviously synonymous with success in baseball in the New Orleans area and in Louisiana, did a phenomenal job at Tulane University and really brought a program to a previously unseen level, and frankly one that's not been approached since then. 2 College World Series, National Coach of the Year, Conference USA Coach of the Year 3 times, Coach of the Decade, winningest coach in Conference USA history. Just a brilliant resume, and now the rich reward of being inducted into the Greater New Orleans Sports Hall of Fame. It is, of course, Rick Jones. And Rick, first and foremost, congratulations, my friend, and great to have you with us.
Well, it's good to be with you, Kenny, as always, and brings back a lot of great memories of, so many times that we had an opportunity to talk on the air, and, I miss those times. There's no question about it.
Well, of course, you've been out of the game for a few years now, and you're missed, I can tell you that, but you still remain close to the game with friends and keep a close eye on things as well. I know you were disappointed to see the college baseball season interrupted this past season, and certainly for Tulane, which was off to a great start.
Yeah, I really was, and they were off to a great start, and I'm disappointed, obviously, and Coach Hewitt and I have a great relationship, and obviously he has Daniel Latham, who was a Hall of Famer at Tulane for me, as his pitching coach and recruiting coordinator. And Daniel had 4 great years for me at Tulane, and as a closer and part of our 05 team, World Series team, and then the 06 team after Katrina. And I was pulling for those guys big time. But I got, Kenny, when you do it as long as I did it, you have so many guys out there, that are coaching, and just talking to those guys. It's just been a very, very difficult spring. But, talking to Mark Kingston the other day, I said, he was with me when Katrina hit. I said, King, you're the only one out there that has a background to maybe be able to handle this, because of what we went through after Katrina, when there was, we're at Texas Tech with 38 players, and there was no manual to go by, and we talked about that. We just took every day at a time. So anyway, but yeah, it has been tough, and just keeping my fingers crossed that we'll get through this, and we'll be able to play next spring, and more importantly, that everybody is back in a healthy mode.
Well, you're already in 6 Halls of Fame. This will be number 7, but what does it mean to go into the All-State Sugar Bowl Greater New Orleans Sports Hall of Fame to you?
Well, it means a lot, because obviously going in with Perry and going in with Coach Floyd also. Perry and I both came from Georgia Tech, and then Lisa Stockton afterwards. So we have some background there. I was really fortunate to get the job. I worked 18 years, and every level to get what I called my dream job, and Tulane became that. But we just loved living in the city of New Orleans. Being in New Orleans and being a part of the Tulane community and the greater New Orleans community, it just, it was special, and we missed that. And so being a part of this, is something that really means a lot, and certainly I'm gratified and humble because of it.
So many moments, players to recollect, it's impossible to really single out, one player. But there might be 1 or 2 moments that stand out in your mind about Tulane and what happened there. Could you possibly really condense it to those 1 or 2 most special moments?
Well, Kenny, there's no question. If I had to relive any day in my coaching career, it would be June 3rd, 2001, because that was the day that we won the Super Regional at Zephyr in front of those unbelievable crowds against LSU. And Coach Burton and I had a great relationship, and it being his last game and our first trip to Omaha and the fans and everything. We had to have the state police park the crowds to get us off the bus, both teams. That's how rabid it was. I don't know how many thousand fans were sitting in the parking lot watching it on television, but there were a lot. And, that day was really special to me, and obviously 05 being ranked number 1 for most of the year, and being the number 1 seed going to Omaha and winning that regional at the Old Turchin, against Rice. And I'll give you a third one. My first year at Tulane, I inherited a group of guys that were just so hungry, and Coach Brockhoff had done a great job with that program. That's why I was so interested in trying to get that job, because I knew it had a chance to be really special. And that first year, to get to an NCAA tournament with that team, win 41 games, and that I don't know if I've ever had more fun in coaching than I did in '94 with that group. And Slosh and I, Jim Slosh, the ultra successful head coach at TCU, we've talked about that a bunch, because he was, 22, 23 years old as assistant, he and Brian Cleary, and that group just bought into everything. But those were the things that really stood out right now.
Rick Jones visiting with us and talking about his induction into the All-State Sugar Bowl Greater New Orleans Sports Hall of Fame. When you examine the history of it, you mentioned Coach Brockhoff, a class act who did a terrific job here recruiting basically in the immediate area, Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe a little bit of Alabama, because of budgets and because there were good players. You were able to expand that quite a bit. And I know another guy that was certainly one that helped you and helped pave the way for you was Milt Retief. So your predecessors as coaches at Tulane were certainly guys I know that you appreciated.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kenny, because I was getting ready to bring it up myself. But, when I came in and interviewed for the job, and of course, the great Kevin White was the AD at the time, and I came in and interviewed. But the one person I met with Kent McWilliams and Mr. Ben Weiner and Billy Slayton. All these great Tulane alums who were so supportive. But I didn't get a chance to meet with Coach Retief because he was at the All-Star game. and imagine that. And he always had better seats than anybody there. And so when I talked to Ian McCall, the associate AD who was in charge of the search, who was my sports supervisor after I got the job, he said, Coach, there's one guy I really want you to talk to on the phone. And he started telling me about Coach Retief, and I said, there's no way I'm going to talk to him on the phone. I'm going to fly in and see him. So I was on the road recruiting at Georgia Tech, obviously, and I flew from the West Coast to New Orleans, and Coach Retief said, no, we can talk on. I said, no, Coach, I want to come see you. He picked me up at the airport, took me to Ruth's Chris for lunch, and we just had a great lunch. The next thing I know, I'm over at his house playing with his grandkids, and I said, Coach, if I get this job, I'm going to lean on you hard. And I don't think he understood how hard I was going to lean on him, because I did, and he helped me in so many ways. But real quickly, I'll just say that, I knew when I got there, I told our Coach Slosh and Coach Cleary, I said, we're probably not going to be in the running for the blue chip Louisiana guy right now because LSU's got such a stronghold. We've got to go national. Well, we didn't have the recruiting budget to do that. But I went to Coach Retief. He threw a luncheon at Commander's Palace in a private room. And that luncheon that day, we raised $31,000 and was able to put my guys on the road. And we signed 19 guys, our first ever ranked recruiting class. And from that point in time on, and then, every year we had a big fundraiser honoring his late son, Mickey Retief, a golf tournament. We had so many things that Coach Retief did, and we stayed close. And again, that was a special relationship we had.
Mickey was one of my dearest friends to the day we lost him, and still remember him at our wedding when he was only a couple of months away from leaving this earth. And special person, as was his dad, as you alluded to. As you look at what Tulane is now, when you were there, it was never easy because of the tuition of the school and only 11.7 scholarships. You did have transfers you could get in. You had some legislative help as well, and yet some of those things have disappeared. How hard is it now for a school like Tulane to be able to, to really approximate or even approach what you did when you were there, given the current circumstances?
It's not easy, and there's no question about it. And I don't want to get on my soapbox too much here, Kenny, because I've done that too many times. But we didn't have the legislative like had in the past, because it was right after the Times-Picayune had run that story. And I remember Kevin White saying to me when I was on my interview, he said, "You're not going to have this one scholarship that was there available before because of what had happened." In fact, he said, at a head coaches meeting. He said, I don't even want to hear the L word used in the building. And so that wasn't an option for us very often. Player had to go get that on their own, and that didn't happen that often. There was a lot of concern about that. But my deal is this. I mean, I think that the NCAA, honestly and truthfully, and I think this may change now, if we move the schedule back and it becomes more of a national sport and we play more into the summertime, but I really believe the NCAA has penalized the elite college baseball player because the sport they happen to excel in is baseball, and only 11.7. And can you think about this? I mean, half that scholarship money goes into guys that play one game out of 5. Your pitching staff. The other time they're sitting over there next to me, and it's just not fair. And so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we go back and play closer to the summer, and we can increase scholarships. As far as private schools are concerned, it comes down to 2 things. One, do you have the resources to be able to give institutional aid, whether it be minority, academic, or need-based? And do you have the commitment to the sport? And that doesn't happen everywhere you want it to happen. And so then we need the scholarship, if we can get that, where that part of it is taken out of the mix. And so we'll just see what happens. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that maybe there's going to be some positive changes in the very near future.
You watched the College World Series today as it is. A, do you like the format today? B, do you like the way it plays out in the ballpark it's in now?
Well, it's a different ballpark, obviously. And the fact that they lowered the seams on the ball makes the ball carry further. But it is a deeper park, and the wind blows the opposite direction than it did in Rosenblatt. So you're not going to see as many home runs. In fact, before they lowered the seam on the ball, pitchers could get away with throwing the ball up in the zone, and hitters could hit it as hard as they wanted to, but it wasn't going out of the ballpark. It's a little different now, and I think it's more of a fair game now. But, I know the new ballpark being downtown and people can walk, that's great and everything. But I got to be honest with you, I really miss the old Rosenblatt. And I'll never forget this. When we got there in 01, obviously having won that Super Regional, and Coach Bertman, his last motivational speech was to my team, and after that Super Regional at Zephyr. But when we got there, we pulled in and we had the best hotel downtown. There's no question. And I remember Coach Sloss looking at me and saying, how did we get this hotel? And I said, they weren't expecting us, big guy, because they had already made the assignments beforehand, and LSU was going to get that one. But when we left there to go up for our first practice in Rosenblatt, when we drove up that hill, I'll never forget this. The bus was quiet, and one of our players in the back said, there it is. And the hair stood up on the back of my neck because we were finally in Omaha. So, I said to every team after that, there are no negatives in Omaha. If somebody asked you in August, would you like to be aggravated, agitated, and irritated in Omaha? You'd say yes, because there are no negatives there. It's a great experience.
It is. I did a lot of game broadcasts at Rosenblatt during the AAA baseball games here. And I love the place, and I'm prejudiced. I miss it substantially, and I just don't think it's the same, frankly, anymore. And then the format itself, with the series being stretched out as long as it is now, to me, I'm not a fan of that either. Do you like it being stretched out this way?
No, and I agree with you on that. And Ed and I have talked about that too. And I think 2 things. One, I think that, obviously it has been stretched out. But also, let's go back. I really think rather than having the regionals, where that's really not – what I liked was the Super Regional, when you were matching up just like you did on the weekend. Everything you did through the course of the year, that's what you did in the Super Regional. You're 1 against their 1 on Friday or Saturday, whenever it started, 2 against 2, 3 against 3. But in regional play, when you have 4 teams, that's not the case. I would like to see us go back and readjust that and have, 2 out of 3 at 32 sites for the regionals, and then the Super Regionals the same way we're doing them now, and then shorten the format a little bit. But also, I would really love for us to be able to play deeper into the summer and have more exposure and have the northern schools have an opportunity to turn a profit or at least break even and not be a cost concern for the northern schools and make our sport more of a national sport. And I think there's a move afoot to do that. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for all my guys out there that this will happen.
Rick Jones visiting with us. And Rick, of course, the minor league baseball, which I was obviously heavily involved with and their original play-by-play guy here, and close to my heart, departed here at the end of last season with the team departing for Wichita. A whole bunch of reasons for that. Stadium needs to be upgraded. No local ownership was the biggest part. Presence of two major league franchises here, bad affiliation, weak promotions, things of that nature. There were a lot of things that conspired, yet it's a very sad day when you lose pro baseball. There's now another effort to get a team back with local ownership, which obviously is the way to go. What about minor league baseball in the New Orleans market? I know you were busy with college baseball, but you had a chance to check it out and come on a few occasions. Wouldn't you like to see it back in this market?
There's no question, Kenny, and I think what you said earlier is exactly what I've been saying. First of all, you need local ownership, people that really have an invested interest, not only in the product, but in the community. And I'll go back to the first year that the Zephyrs were playing in the new ballpark at Zephyr Field. I'm out there on a night in August, watching one of my former players or whatever. I can't exactly remember, but it was a huge crowd, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this is a school night, and look at all these kids here and families here, and it was just a great atmosphere. And so I went to Rob Cooling, the owner, for at the time a local guy, and I talked to my AD, Sandy Barber, and she said, whatever you want to do. I said, Rob, I'd really like to move the LSU game here. And we did this on a handshake. He said, I'll take parking and concessions, you take ticket sales. Well, I mean, it was a huge payday for us, a huge payday for them. And we moved on, packed house. We never played that game and didn't have a packed house. And that was good for college baseball. I mean, we were, in 05, we were on ESPN with that game. And, it just was big. And then, also in 05, we moved our Saturday game with Cal State Fullerton and our Saturday game with Arizona State to Zephyr. And we had, both of this was early in the season, and we had between 8,000 and 10,000 people for both games. I mean, so it tells you that once people get used to going to the ballpark, it becomes something they really want to do. And I think local ownership and the right kind of, and obviously we know the stadium needs to be upgraded and playing surface and the things that go with that. But I do think that local ownership is the key to this and getting this thing going in the right direction. And if we have minor league baseball and it's successful, it helps everybody in the community. There's not one recruit that I didn't bring in after Zephyr was built that I didn't take to Zephyr and say, you're gonna play 2 or 3 games here every year. It's the same way we did with the Superdome before Katrina when we were playing, the Winn-Dixie Challenge. I said, you're gonna play 3 games at least every year in the same building that Michael Jordan hit the jumper and Joe Montana took him down the field in the 4th quarter. This is going to be a great experience for you, and it really helped us in recruiting.
Final comment, final subject before we let you get away. We watch what's happening with Major League Baseball right now. Number one, cutting minor league players. Looks like they're going to end the minor league season before it starts, and then the possibility of taking over minor league baseball, which is a bit troubling to me. But then, of course, on the other hand, the inability to get together on the number of games, on the pay between owners and players, while other leagues have gotten their act together and they've got their season set to resume and so forth. It doesn't look good for the sport that we love, does it?
It's been really disappointing the last few days, Skinny. And I listen to everything. I've got time on my hands, so listen to MLB Network and what's going on. And I understand that they haven't gotten together yet. I got to believe they're going to. But you know what? Time's running out. We get this thing worked out. You're still going to have some time to prepare with this 2 or 3 weeks in spring training or whatever, abbreviated. And I don't know what kind of schedule we're going to play, but, I mean, if we played a 50-game schedule, well, if you took that back to last year, I can tell you the Nationals were way below 500 after 50 games. And so I'd hope we would play more than then. And then I know that you're talking about maybe a lot of doubleheaders. You're talking about playing late into the fall. I don't know how it's going to work out, but this is unprecedented times, and so we got to be able to do some unprecedented things to get through the season. And I hope we can salvage it because as much as I love watching the game, I'm not really that much excited about watching Korean baseball every day at 5:30 in the morning as I would be being able to watch our Cardinals at night.
I'm right there with you. I've been watching a lot of those games and watching a lot of guys throwing 88-mile-an-hour fastballs. And oh, by the way, I'm wearing a Cardinal shirt today, just so that you know. So.
Well, trust me, I'll pass it on to my mom, and she'll be excited because every day she says, I can't believe I can't watch my Cardinals tonight.
Hopefully sometime soon. And hopefully we'll see you in New Orleans sometime soon. And there's an event that's usually terrific that goes along with this induction. We sure hope it happens. These are strange times. We all want to pray for people's healing, forgiveness, and the ability to come together as a community, as a country, and beyond with everything that's transpired. And we'd love to be able to come together and honor people that deserve to be honored, like Rick Jones. Hope that happens.
Well, I appreciate it, Kenny. And seriously, I appreciate it. And always good being with you. And to the people in New Orleans, we miss being there, and the last thing I'll say is I'll never forget this as long as I live. My second year at Tulane, I was on a plane going to the West Coast, and I got a cup of coffee. It was jet black, but it tasted like hot water because I'd gotten used to the coffee in New Orleans. Well, that's sort of the way the rest of the country looks to me now, bland, comparatively speaking. So it tells you how much we miss it and how much we love the city.